Hey everyone, welcome back to Maths Nation. Today we're going to be going through the 2024 June Paper 2 Calculator Foundation Tier paper. We'll be going through each and every question step by step to make sure that we get full marks. Let's get into it. Question 1 says, write the following numbers in order. Start with the lowest number. So the lowest number is -3, then -1, 2, 4, and 7. Question 2 says, change 5,000 milliliters to liters. So we know that 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters, and therefore 1 milliliter is going to be 1 over 1,000 liters. We have 5,000 milliliters. If we divide that by 1,000, gives us the 5 liters. Question 3 says, write 31 over 100 as a decimal place. So we're going to write 31 and we're dividing by 100, so we're moving the decimal place to the left hand side. There's 2 zeros in 100, so we're moving it by 2 places. 1, 2. And so our answer is 0.31. Question 4 says, write down the multiple of 7 that is between 30 and 40. Well, 7 times 5 is 35. Question 5 says, complete the statement below to make it correct. Something multiplied by m is equal to 2m. Well, that's going to be 2. 2 times m gives us 2m. Question 6 says, Ben sells houses. The pictogram shows information about the number of houses Ben sold in each of the first 3 months of last year. The key represents one box for 4 houses. Part A, write down the number of houses Ben sold in January. Well, we've got one box, so that's 4. Another box, so it's in 4, and then half a box, which represents 2. So that's 4 plus 2, which is 10. In April, Ben sold 11 houses. Show this information on the pictogram. So one box represents 4, so that's 4. Another box represents 4, that's 8. And now we need to show 3 more houses, so it's going to look like that. Ben sold a total of 60 houses in the first 5 months of last year. Work out the number of houses Ben sold in May. So it's going to be the total, which is 60, minus how much he sold in January, February, March, and April. So in January, we've worked out that's 10. In February, it's 4 plus 4 plus 1. So that's 9. In March, that's 4 plus 4 plus 4, which is 12. In April, we know it's 11. So it's 60 minus 10 minus 9 minus 12 minus 11, and that is equal to 18. So Ben sold 18 houses in May. Question 7a says, measure the length of this line, give your answer in centimeters. Now, we can't draw this accurately because this paper is zoomed in, but if we were doing this in the exam, we would place our ruler at either this end or the other end. Let's say we'll leave it here, and you'd measure it to the other end. And the answer should be 8.7 centimeters. Part B says, measure the size of the angle marked X. Similar to part A, we'd use a protractor this time. You'd either mark 0 at this point or at this point here, and then you'd measure this angle here, and you should get 67 degrees. Part C says, in the space below, draw a hexagon. So a hexagon is just a 6-sided shape, so we can draw any 6-sided shape. Something like that. Question 8 says, the points A and B are shown on the grid. Part A, write down the coordinates of point A. So point A is here. We know we go across the x-axis twice, or 2, and we go up the y-axis 1. So our coordinates is 2, 1. Part B says, find the coordinates of the midpoint of A and B. So if we draw the line that joins A to B, now again, in your exam, make sure to use a ruler to draw a straight line. You can see that the midpoint is exactly here. And this coordinate is going to be 0 on the x-axis, and then we go down the y-axis, so it's -2. Part C says, on the grid, mark with a cross the point with coordinates -4, 2. So again, this is the x coordinate and that's the y coordinate. So x is -4, and then y is 2, and so that's going to be here, and we're going to label this C. Question 9 says, Anil has a job as a driver. He is paid for each mile he drives. He is also paid expenses. 1 week, Anil writes down the distance readings from his car. For this week, Anil is paid 47 pence for each mile he drives. He is also paid expenses of £80. Work out the total amount that Anil is paid. Give your answer in pounds. So in terms of mileage, we have how many miles he started with, which is 47,241. And at the end of the week, he ends up with 47,879. So if we minus them from each other, we know exactly how many total miles he's driven for that week. So that's 47,879 minus 47,241. If you put that into your calculator, we get 638 miles. So Anil has driven 638 miles. Now he's paid 47 pence for each mile. So that's 638 multiplied by 47 pence, which is equal to 29,986 pence. Now he's been given £80 worth of paid expenses. So in order to add it to this, we need to convert this 29,986 into pounds. And in order to do that, we're going to divide by 100. And so 29,986 pence is equal to £299.86. If we now add in our expenses, that's £299.86 plus the £80, and that is equal to £379.86. Question 10 says, Anita throws a coin 3 times. Each time the coin lands on heads or tails. List all the possible outcomes. I find that the best way to tackle this is to start off with all 3 of the landing of the coins being heads or tails, and then taking one away. So for example, let's say that all 3 land on heads. Well, for the second possible outcome, we can say that the first 2 land on heads, but the last lands on tails. Or we can say that the first is heads, the second is tails, and the third is also heads. Or finally, we can say that the first is tails, and the last 2 are heads. We can then do the same thing but for tails. So we can say that the first throw can be all 3 land on tails, or the first 2 land on tails with the last landing on heads, or the first landing on tails, the second landing on heads, and the third landing on tails, or finally the first landing on heads and the last 2 landing on tails. Question 11 says, Majid has a spinner. Majid is going to spin the arrow. The arrow can land on 1 or on 2 or on 3. Majid says the probability that the arrow will land on 2 is 1/3 because the spinner has 3 sections. Is Majid correct? You must give a reason for your answer. Well, no, Majid is not correct. And the reason for this is because the only time when the probability of it landing on 2 is 1/3 is if the sections were all equal, but they're not. So we can say no, because the sections are not the same size, or the angles are not the same. Question 12 says, Syra buys 24 bars of chocolate. 2/3 of the 24 bars are white chocolate. The rest of the 24 bars are milk chocolate. Each milk chocolate bar has a weight of 35 grams. Work out the total weight of the milk chocolate bars that Syra buys. So we know that 2/3 of the 24 bars are white chocolate. And so that means the remaining amount are going to be milk chocolate. So we say that 1 minus 2/3 is equal to 1/3. So we know that 1/3 are milk chocolate. And so 1/3 of 24 is equal to 24 divided by 3, which is equal to 8. So there are 8 milk chocolate bars. We know that 1 bar is 35 grams, and so 8 bars are going to be 8 times 35 grams, which is equal to 280 grams. And so 8 bars of milk chocolate weigh 280 grams. Question 13a says simplify 2c multiplied by 3d. So when you're multiplying these numbers together, we have two numbers which are 2 and 3, so we can multiply them. That's 2 times 3, which is 6, multiplied by c multiplied by d. So our answer is 6cd. Part B says t is equal to x plus 2y, x is equal to 3, and y is equal to minus 4. Work out the value of t. So we know that t is equal to x, and x is 3, plus 2 multiplied by y, and we know that y is minus 4. So we're going to put y, which is minus 4, in brackets. Therefore, t is equal to 3 plus 2 times minus 4, which is minus 8. So that's 3 minus 8, which is minus 5. And so t is equal to minus 5. Question 14 says, on Monday, Lizzie cycled 36 kilometers in 3 hours. Work out Lizzie's average speed. So that's 36 divided by 3, which is equal to 12. So she cycled at 12 kilometers per hour. Part B says, on Tuesday, Lizzie cycled 36 kilometers at an average speed of 16 kilometers per hour. Lizzie says that the total time she cycled on Monday and Tuesday were less than 5 hours and 20 minutes. Is Lizzie correct? You must show how you get your answer. So we know that she cycled 36 kilometers, and she cycled that at 16 kilometers per hour. So 36 divided by 16 will give us the number of hours, which is equal to 2.25 hours. We need to convert this into hours and minutes. So we know that's 2 hours, and 0.25 of an hour is 60, because there's 60 minutes in 1 hour, multiplied by 0.25. And that's 2 hours and 15 minutes. And that's how much time she spent cycling on Tuesday. On Monday, we know she spent 3 hours. So that's 2 hours plus 3 hours plus 15 minutes. And that's equal to 5 hours and 15 minutes. And so, yes, Lizzie is correct, as she cycled 5 hours 15 minutes, which is less than 5 hours and 20 minutes. 15 says £3,500 is invested in a bank for 6 years. The bank pays simple interest at a rate of 2.5% per year. Work out the total amount of simple interest paid. So we can work out the amount of interest paid for 1 year. That's 3,500 multiplied by the 2.5%. And we know that 2.5% is the same as saying 0.025. So 3,500 multiplied by 0.025, and that's equal to 87.5. So the bank pays £87.5 per year. We know that there's 6 years, so that's 87.5 multiplied by 6, and that's equal to £525. So over 6 years, the bank pays £525 of simple interest. Question 16 says you can use this graph to change between ounces and grams. Part A is asking us to change 6 ounces to grams. And so if we find 6 ounces, that's going to be here. And so if we go across, we are here. And that is 170 grams. Part B says change 1 kilogram to ounces. So we know that 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams. Now, our graph doesn't go up to 1,000, but what we can do is pick a number that is divisible by 1,000 and then multiply. So for example, we can see from the graph that 200 grams is 7 ounces. And so if 200 grams is 7 ounces, to get from 200 to 1,000, that's multiplied by 5. And so 7 multiplied by 5 gives us 35 ounces. Question 17 says, here is a triangle ABC. The region R consists of all points inside the triangle that are less than 4 centimeters from A and closer to C than to B. On the diagram, show by shading the region R. Now, I won't be able to do this accurately, but I will go through how you would tackle this question. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to tackle the first point. It says that the region is less than 4 centimeters from A. And so what we're going to do is, if we have a ruler, we'll measure out our compass to 4 centimeters. You then place the compass here at point A and then draw an arc. So let's imagine that the 4 centimeters comes to here. And so you draw an arc like so. The next part says that it's closer to C than to B. And so what you're going to do is you're going to get your ruler and you're going to measure the distance CB and you'll divide it by 2. And so you'll draw the point here. And then from C to B, you'll draw an arc there. So like so. And we'll do the same from B to C. And so if I draw an arc, it looks something like this. So now that we have all of our loci, all we need to do is draw a line, a straight line that connects all of these. So that will be somewhere like that. And so if I bring this further out, the region R will be everything in this part of the triangle. And we can label this R. Now, when you're doing this in the exam, be sure to use a ruler and a compass to make sure that your drawings are accurate. Question 18 says, Mrs. Simpson organized a school trip for 66 children. The total cost of the trip was £1,800. The school paid 56% of the total cost. The rest of the total cost was divided equally between the 66 children. Work out how much money each child paid. So the first thing that we need to do is minus the 56% from the 1800. So that's 1,800 multiplied by 56%. Now we know that 56% is equal to 0.56. So that's 1,800 multiplied by 0.56. And that is equal to £1,008. And so this is how much the school paid. And so we minus it from our total. That's 1,800 minus 1,008, and that's equal to £792. So the 66 children between them paid £792. And so we're going to do 792 divided by 66, and that's going to give us £12. So each child paid £12. Question 19a says, work out the value of the square root of 35.2 plus 1.7 to the power of 3 divided by 4.6 squared minus 8.91. Write down all the numbers on your calculator display. So if we put this into our calculator, we should get 0.51701897.5 and 9. Part B says, write your answer to part A correct to 2 significant figures. Well, the significant figures are the first and second numbers that are non-zero. So the first number has to be non-zero. And so if we look at our number, the first number is 5, which is non-zero. And so we have 0.51701897.5. 9759. And so to two significant figures, if you count them, 0 isn't a significant figure because it's 0. It has to be a non-zero number. 5 is a significant figure, and 1 is a significant figure. The third significant figure is 7, so we have to round up, and so our answer is going to be 0.52. Question 20 says ABC is a right-angled triangle. Work out the length of CB. Give your answer correct to three significant figures. Well, we have a right-angled triangle, and so we're going to use Pythagoras' theorem. Now, Pythagoras' theorem says a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. And c squared is always the hypotenuse or the longest length. So we know that 19 is going to be c. We can call this b, and we call our unknown a. So we say a squared plus b squared, which is 10 squared, is equal to c squared, which is 19 squared. That's equal to a squared plus 100 is equal to 261. Now we can make a squared the subject. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the plus 100 to this side. So a squared is equal to 261 minus 100. So a squared is equal to 161. Now we square root both sides to get rid of the square. So we can say a is equal to the square root of 161. And so a to three significant figures is equal to 16.2. So 16.2 centimeters. Question 21a says write 90 as a product of its prime factors. So 90 can be broken down into 9 times 10, and 9 can be broken down into 3 times 3. 3 is a prime number, so we're going to circle that. And then 10 can be broken down into 5 times 2, both of which are also prime numbers. And so our answer is going to be 2 times 3 times 5 times 3. Part B says a is equal to 2 squared times 3 and b is equal to 2 times 3 squared. Write down the lowest common multiple of a and b. So a quick trick is we can find out the biggest number in each equation and multiply them together to get the lowest common multiple. So in the first equation, it's 2 squared, which is 4 times 3. And in the second equation, it's 2 times 3 squared, which is 9. So we know that 4 is the largest number in equation A, and 9 is the largest number in equation B. So if we say 4 times 9 is equal to 36. So the lowest common multiple is 36. Question 22 says the number of hours H that some machines take to make 5,000 bottles is given by H is equal to 72 divided by N, where N is the number of machines. On Monday, 6 machines make 5,000 bottles. On Tuesday, 9 machines make 5,000 bottles. The machines took more time to make the bottles on Monday than on Tuesday. How much more time? So if you work out H of Monday, that's 72 divided by the number of machines, which is 6. And so the number of hours taken is 12 hours for Monday. And if we do the same thing for Tuesday, so H of Tuesday is 72 divided by N, which is the number of machines. Now we have 9 machines. So that's 72 divided by 9, which is 8 hours. And so how much more time? Well, 12 minus 8 is equal to 4. So 4 extra hours. Question 23 says there are only red discs, blue discs, and yellow discs in a bag. There are 24 yellow discs in the bag. Mel is going to take at random a disc from the bag. The probability that the disc will be yellow is 0.16. The number of red discs to the number of blue discs is 5 to 4. Work out the number of red discs in the bag. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to work out the total number of discs in the bag, and we can use the information of yellow discs to do that. We know that the probability of getting a yellow disc is 0.16, and we know that that is equal to the total number of yellow discs, which is 24, over the total number of discs in the bag. So if we rearrange to make total the subject, that's 24 divided by 0.16, and so the total number of discs in the bag is equal to 150. Now, we can take away the number of yellow discs. That will be 150 minus the 24 yellow discs, and that's equal to 126, and that is the total number of red and blue discs. Now we know that the ratio is 5:4 for red discs to blue discs, and so the total ratio is out of 9, and so we can say the number of red discs is equal to 126 multiplied by 5/9, and that is equal to 70. So there are a total of 70 red discs in the bag. Question 24a says complete the table of values for y is equal to x squared minus x. So all we need to do is plug in our x values to find out what the value of yx is. So that's y is equal to, our first x value is -1. So that's -1 squared minus -1, which is 1 minus -1, which is +1, which is equal to 2. The next x value is 1. So we're going to say y is equal to 1 squared minus 1, which is equal to 1 minus 1, which is equal to 0. And finally, we have an x value of 3. So that's y is equal to 3 squared minus 3. Y is equal to 9 minus 3, which is equal to 6. Part B says, on the grid, draw the graph of y equals x squared minus x for values of x from -2 to 3. So we have our x coordinate at the top and our y coordinate at the bottom. So all we need to do now is plot our graph. So the first one is -2 and 6, which is here. Then -1 and 2, which is here. Then 0, 0, which is here. Then 1, 0, which is here. Then 2, 2, and 3, 6. Now all we need to do is draw in our graph. So it will look something like this, with a curve at the bottom going up. Part C says, use your graph to find estimates for the solutions of the equation x squared minus x is equal to 4. Well, we've drawn our graph x squared minus x, and now we know it's equal to 4. So our y is equal to 4. So if we draw that line, and so we need to find the x values that corresponds to. So that's -1.5 and 2.6. Question 25 says, Andy, Luke and Tina share some sweets in the ratio 1 to 6 to 14. Tina gives 3/7 of her sweets to Andy. Tina then gives 12.5% of the rest of her sweets to Luke. Tina says, now all three of us have the same number of sweets. Is Tina correct? You must show how you get your answer. Well, we're dealing with ratios, so we need to work out what the total ratio is. So that's equal to 1 plus 6 plus 14, which is 21. So we can say that Andy has 1/21 sweets. Luke has 6/21, and Tina has 14/21 sweets to begin with. The first part of the question says that Tina gives 3/7 of her sweets to Andy. So that's 14/21 multiplied by 3/7, and that's equal to 2/7. So she gives 2/7 to Andy. And so Andy now has the original 1/21 sweets plus the 2/7 sweets that Tina has just given him. And so that's a total of 7/21 sweets for Andy. Tina then gives 12.5% of the rest of her sweets to Luke. And so she had 14/21. She gave 2/7 to Andy. And so she's left with 8/21. And that's after she's given her sweets to Andy. Now she gives 12.5% to Luke. And 12.5% is the same as saying 12.5/100, and that's equal to 1/21. And so Luke has the original 6/21 plus the 1 over 21 that Tina's just given him, and so he also has 7 over 21. And finally, to work out how many sweets that Tina has left, well, she had 8 over 21. She gave 1 over 21 to Luke, and so she also has 7 over 21. So all three of Andy, Luke, and Tina end up with 7 over 21 of the sweets. So yes, Tina is correct. 26 says ABCD is a quadrilateral. All angles are measured in degrees. Show that ABCD is a trapezium. Now, we need to remember from our rules of trapeziums that when you have two parallel lines, so BC and AD, the connecting lines, so AB and CD, the angles on those lines have to add up to 180. So we can say 4x plus 15 plus 2x plus 15 has to equal to 180. And so we can expand and simplify this to get the value of x. So 4x plus 2x is 6x, and 15 plus 15 is 30, and that's equal to 180. 6x is 180 minus 30. 6x is 150. X is 150 divided by 6, and so x is equal to 25. And now we can check this with the angles on the line CD, and they should add up to 180. So it's 4x plus 8 plus 3x minus 3. We know that x is 25, so 4 times 25 plus 8 plus 3 times 25 minus 3. 4 times 25 is 100, plus 8 plus 3 times 25, which is 75, minus 3, and that is equal to 180. So we've shown that ABCD is a trapezium. Question 27 says ABC and DEF are two similar isosceles triangles. DE is equal to DF. Work out the length of DE. So DE is equal to DF. When you have similar triangles or similar shapes, essentially one is an enlargement of another. So we need to work out the scale factor. So the scale factor is going to be the large number of 6 divided by 1.5, as we are looking at what the scale factor go from here to here. And so if we do that, that's equal to 4. So our scale factor is 4. So we know that line AB is 8. So 8 divided by 4 is equal to 2. So the length DE is equal to 2 centimeters. Question 28 says, the table shows information about the weights of 120 oranges. Part A asks, find the class interval that contains the median. So the median is the middle number. And the way you work that out is, we know we have 120 oranges. So to work out the middle number, it's 120 plus 1 over 2. That's 121 over 2. And that's 60.5. So we need to find out where the 60.5 number is. So 34 is in the first interval, so it's not that. The second interval is going to be 34 plus 29, and that's 65. And 65 is greater than 60.5, so we know that the 60.5th number is between 100 and 150. So it'll be 100 is less than W, which is less than or equal to 150. Part B says, calculate an estimate for the mean weight of the 120 oranges. Give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to work out the total. And the way we do that is we take the middle of the interval and multiply it by the frequency. So for the first, it's going to be between 50 and 100. That's 75. And that's multiplied by 34. And that gives us 2,550. Then we've got between 100 and 150. That's 125. Multiplied by 29. And that gives us 3,625. Then we have 150 to 200, so that's 175. Multiplied by 27, and that gives us 4,725. Then the middle of 200 and 250 is 225. And that's multiplied by 19 to give us 4,275. And finally, 275 multiplied by 11 gives us 3,025. And so to get to the total, we add all of these together, and that gives us 18,200. Now, we know that we have 120 oranges, and so we're going to do 18,200 divided by the 120 oranges, and that will give us an answer of 152. So the average or mean weight of the 120 oranges is 152 grams. That brings us to the end of the paper. I hope that helped, and I hope that you were able to follow through and understand how we tackled each and every question to make sure that we got full marks. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell.